What happens if I become a judge of the Supreme Court? Somebody comes, maybe abahlali basemjondolo, movement against xenophobia, movement against, alphabet community and all that. Then they find me with, Ike is the judge. We give you a life imprisonment. He's still, charging our tax monies and all that. And South Africa is very liberal because even people who are given life, come bed. After some time, they get paroled, And therefore, what are you saying, to society? When that person, after 2 years, 5 years, I've seen some of them on my podcast, they were sentenced to life. But they're back now after 12 years, 13 years, and now they become celebrities. Forgiveness is good for you. For who? If someone has violated me, I want to see you suffer. The last time I checked, they're still earning about 2 million constitutional court judges. Magistrate, they earn less. In South Africa, our economy is so integrated, it's linked globally. The West will have something to say, and you'll experience something that you've never seen before. Western Zimbabwe, the sanctions. South Africans, they're not ready for that. And South Africans, even if you can lead them, you try to be a tower, they will turn against you. When I criticize the EFF, when I'm saying, Julius Malema says, take land. When you see an open space, take land and occupy it, but he's not doing that. He follows all the banking protocols, the bond, and even living at Mazoti's house. Some of them, they're looting, they're colluding with RAF employees. Sometimes I'll be defending RAF as an advocate in court. I'm there. Let me take off my head when I talk about this. And I was the most handsome guy in this country. I still believe that I'm the most handsome jurist that this country has ever produced. I was arrested during COVID. They called me an instigator. I even cried in court for appearing in high court. Give me 30 grand. For my preparations, 5 hours preparation, give me 15. For this, easily, you can pay me 200,000. The very simple people who've broken into my place many times, broke the roof, violated me in a way that, I never thought. And I asked myself, when this person tried to steal my car, did they know I suffered so much for black people? Awe, Sanwanani Makaya. Once more, we are back live with Ike Kumar. Yeah. So today, hopefully, I will deliver a one take. I'm not used to, having, editions and being edited. And as I normally say, I am the freest man on the planet. I think I'm the freest man on the planet. I'm, one of those guys that, cannot be edited. And I was cancelled before cancel culture, long before, there was internet. I was that guy. Whenever guys wanted, to voice out their grievances, they will tell Ike, and now me foolish me, I'll raise my hand. And then I was cancelled, and I became surprised. Why is it that guys are working and I'm not working? They say because we talk too much. So, but unfortunately, I was born like that. I was born in the olden times. During that time when money was not so important, it was necessary. Money is necessary. Make no mistake, in a capitalist world, if you don't have money, you're doomed. It's a sin, even your woman will turn against you. But when I'm one person, I've sacrificed myself, career. They normally say that a bad boy will sacrifice the world, just to save one woman. But a good guy will sacrifice one woman to save the world. I guess I've been a bad boy, but unfortunately, in a good way. And sometimes it is not rewarded, because people want to know what, the benefits. I've been called a lot of things. I've been called a fool, because I don't value money that much. I need money to survive. But when it comes to principles, I put my principles first, and some of the people, they say, why do you talk so much? Maybe this guy has been excluded. Maybe he's been cut off. Look, I could be anywhere and everywhere where I want to be. And I believe, I personally believe which I can talk to anyone here on earth, and I wouldn't feel misplaced, even though, my English is cut and paste because I started at Bantu education, and I'm also worried about, what do you call these things? Is it prepositions? So we add on. Yeah, those ones, they still, dribble me because, even white people now with themselves, they don't know because they say you're on a public transport, but you are in a private car. So about in there, so, but that's why I always put the Zulu word, sometimes I need to I speak a whole English sentence, then I'll add, because I don't know whether to use, off or on or add, and sometimes when I'm watching these tapes, and I've used, a plural noun, and the verb also has to have an S at the end. Sometimes I forget because I'm speaking faster, and then I say, "Oh, the grammatical error." People are gonna think that this guy's an idiot and he's a lawyer. But believe you me, in court, I'm so articulate. Maybe it's because I've prepared and I've got my heads. It's the same as people who are stammering. There are people who stammer when, supposed to utter, words, sentences. But when it comes to singing, they are so flawless. They sing and you wonder, where is the stuttering coming from? So now I'm in court when need be, I'm just smooth, poetic. I like poetry. So that's why I get bored when I listen to some people, delivering a speech. I remember even my nephew here, I used to force him to watch the news, and Jacob Zuma at that time was still coming, campaigning against Thabo Mbeki, and then you'd say he still had a baraton then, I think it was by my 8, 9. You'll say, Gantu Jacob Zuma Bora Ganje. Because Jacob Zuma would, one word per hour. It's like, even Thabo Mbeki was like that when he started. He'll be saying, Viva, women. So I got bored, So I like oratory, like Abu Obama, like Abu Donald Trump. Yeah, he just that in just got a squeaky voice. But Bush, he speaks well. Cyril Ramaphosa speaks, good English, but lots of nonsense. If you listen, he has no backbone. Yeah, so today I'll be tackling, a couple of issues, judiciary, and, lots of people, they're always asking me questions about death penalty. Why do you say that certain things cannot change, in the constitution? And also to touch a bit of my life. I'm a private person. I'm a very private person. People don't believe that, but I live publicly. I'm a very shy person, but I'm loud. And even at school, when they were disciplining other kids who were noisemakers, they used to jump me or skip me at, lower primary. Do they still call them lower primary? I don't know. Teachers wouldn't punish me. But to Mr. Smangeko, I'll make the loudest noise. And yeah, it is like that. So I come from that. So I'm very shy. And yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, people have asked, can you change the constitution in South Africa? I've seen recently they've asked people to make submissions. Yes, you can change the constitution, and the constitution itself, it tells you, Uguti, you can change everything, in our constitution, every section in our constitution can be changed, and if you go to Section 74, 75, 76, it tells you, what is it that you can change, So literally, or as they say, in theory, you can change the constitution, including Section 11, Section 1. But as to how far you will go, that's another question, So in practice, you can't. I don't know if I make sense. The parliament, the legislature, they can say, as from today, we are changing 1, 2, 3. But still, that has to be ratified by the Constitutional Court because it can be challenged. Like, for an example, I've made an example in a death penalty. Most people say, why can't you bring back the death penalty? Why can't you castrate, the rapists and all that? You can't do that because we've adopted the Bill of Rights, which is, a key in our constitution. So if, for an example, Parliament can say death penalty is coming back, they draft legislation, they passed it, that legislation, it has to be implemented somewhere. Every law that you enact or you come up with, it has to be implemented somewhere. Whether you sign a treaty, you hear Cyril Ramaphosa saying, signing bilateral agreements with China, whatever, it has to come back to our law and be ratified, be adopted. So now, let's say we have a death penalty. Let's say they call it a Death Penalty Act or Capital Punishment Act. Now, the prosecutor goes to court. He asks for a death penalty. The magistrate or a judge will say no. Because in our law, we've got something called a precedent system. Previous case laws, they determine, what should happen. We are bound by previous case laws. And the Constitutional Court being the highest court, in the land. And we are in a constitutional democracy. Unlike in the past we were in the parliamentary sovereignty or parliamentary democracy, where parliament had powers, executive, like president, minister, could wake up like a king and say, thou, shall not succeed. This must go. But now they can't, because we are in a constitutional democracy. Section 2 of the Constitution states, this is the constitutional democracy. Section 7 says the Bill of Rights is the cornerstone, of our laws. So anything and everything that contradicts the Constitution, it will be struck down. It will be held as if it never existed, so the Constitution is our Bible in terms of the laws. So if the prosecutor asks for a death penalty, the judge will say no because of the precedent system. In Mankwanyane case, in Braamfontein, it has been decided to go to death penalty is inhuman. It will never come back, so it was struck off. So it is for that reason, for everything that you try to change. Like for an example, Section 1. Section 1 is the section in the Constitution that speaks about one man, one vote. How do you change one man, one vote and say it's from today, we're no longer voting as, per person, you're voting as groups? That will never, take off, because the Constitutional Court will say this law is unconstitutional. In South Africa, we have got something like separation of powers. They call it in res politica, I think it's a French word, res politica, which means that separation of powers, which is the judiciary. These are judges, the courts. You've got executive, president, ministers, all these politicians. And then you've got legislature, parliament, So all these, they govern the country, as, separate entities. But this separation of powers, it is not absolute. Sometimes, you hear people saying, no, the judges, how can they make laws, by themselves? These judges are unelected. No, the judges are elected because you choose parties. The party in parliament, the first, sitting of parliament after elections, they must choose a president. It means when you choose a party in this democracy, like the ANC or DA, and when they come to parliament, these 400 members of parliament, they vote for one person. They can vote for whoever. It doesn't necessarily mean that the majority party will always win. DA can raise their person or, PA and say, we want Gayton. And if all they agree with Gayton is our president, he will win, become a president, even if he's got 2%. So they vote. So it's indirectly. We don't vote directly. And these executive, when they are there, or these executive guys, when they are there, they then appoint judges. They go through the Judicial Service Commission. So therefore, by extension, the judges are, chosen by the masses, because the masses can't be everywhere. The same as in court. We exercise the open court. The court must be open. But sometimes you find that you cannot accommodate in one court, like in the Senzo Meyiwa case. You cannot have 5,000 people. Therefore, they will allow the media to be the eyes of the people, because the people need to see what is happening in democracy. So another example that I can use, I think it's Section 9. It's an equality clause, which states that men and women are equal, irrespective of gender, religion, whatsoever, we are all equal before the law. How do you change that? The law says you can change that. Section 1 can be changed. It's the only section that you need 75% to change it. All other sections, you need 66%, which is a two-thirds majority. And Section 74, 5, 6, they tell you, if you're amending the bill, if you're amending ordinary, laws, if you're amending the Constitution, how to go about. It's a long story, how laws are being amended from, provinces to national parliament and all that. So now, let's say, for an example, you've got 100% that says we're amending Section 9 or Section 1 or Section 11, which says the right to life, and you amend that. It still must go to court, because the courts are the custodians of the Constitution. We are governed by the Constitution. So we all must bow to the Constitution, even though we've got separation of powers, but the courts are slightly upper in terms of, our system, or systems. They've got, a headmaster's stick, bringing these politicians and the legislature in line. Like, for an example, I think it was a Diepsloot case, and another case I forgot, but this case, the Constitutional Court intervened and said, you know what, we don't agree with this legislation. It's unconstitutional. It violates certain rights, that are basic. Go and change it. They referred back to Parliament. And Parliament has to look at it and say, you know what, okay, here we made errors. And if they don't listen, the Constitutional Court will come, or will tell them, change 1, 2, 3. And then that is change and it's in line. That's why I'm saying that the Constitution allows you to change it, but you've got limited powers to do so. There are certain things that can never be changed. That sentence can never come back due to that right to life. You can have a law that says we're bringing back right to have capital punishment, but when it comes to court, the Constitutional Court will say no, you can't do that. You can't oppress women and say it's from today, a man, it's got more right than a woman. That law will be unconstitutional. And also, when it comes to customary laws, our Constitution does recognize that, you can exercise your customary law. The traditional leaders, they can come up with laws that they want to enact. But these customary laws, I'll come back to you. These customary laws, they've got to be in line with the Bill of Rights. They've got to be in line with, constitutional principles. Therefore, they cannot be superseding your normal basic rights. In the past, what you used to have before the Constitution was adopted as, sovereign or supreme, traditional laws existed, but provided they were not repugnant or they were not contradicting common law. Yes.
My question is, even though the Constitution says that everybody is equal, we still see companies today paying women less than they do men. So it really doesn't make a difference whether it's in the Constitution or not.
You can challenge that, if one challenges it. But remember, you have to bring the matter before the court, because the courts, they don't just sit and say, you know what, in our society there is injustice. They are not academics, checking. Okay, we saw there at Pick and Pay. Someone needs to bring the matter before the court. Courts, are there to, change such, but someone must bring it there. Remember, judges, they speak in court. It's only now that you start to hear judges having interviews on TV, like Mogoeng, he loved TV. But back in the days, judges, they didn't speak, publicly, and especially about matters that, they're presiding over. You're not supposed to speak on those matters, because what happens, like me, chances of me becoming a judge are almost zero, but I don't aspire to become a judge because I've expressed myself on different issues. And what happens if I become a judge of the Supreme Court? Somebody comes, maybe abahlali basemjondolo, movement against xenophobia, movement against, alphabet community and all that. Then they find me with, Ike is the judge. They'll say, no, this guy is going to be biased. He needs to recuse himself. So they'll always say, no, you know what? We don't trust that this guy will come up with a fair judgment. Can he recuse himself? That is a beauty, we have, in the democracy, because you can say, you know what, I don't agree with this judge. The only thing that I disagree with, because when you're asking the judge to recuse himself, you're making that application before him. It's like he's listening to that application. You say, Judge Mr. Khumalo, we know your views about women. They're terrible. And here we are, before you. We don't have confidence that our matter is going to be heard and presided, in a fair manner. So can you please recuse themselves? And Judge Khumalo will look at the application and say no, or yes, I think I should. But you can still appeal. If he refuses, go to a court above him, Yes.
So according to you, should the death penalty come back if everything was possible? Would you bring back the death penalty?
Look, I I am for the death penalty, even though it will never come back. I remember when that Mangwanyane case was heard. I think we're still students. Some of our peers, they went to Braamfontein to hear the arguments. It was a highly publicized case because it was, a matter of, now or never. And most people who don't want the death penalty, they argue it wrongly, for me, because the death penalty, how it was brought in back in the days, it's based on the laws of Moses. The laws of Moses that says an eye for an eye. But the liberals, they say, no, death penalty is not a deterrent. Even during apartheid, we had a death penalty, but people still continue. They murdered other people. But that's not the reason why death penalty was placed. Death penalty was placed to say, you know what? The perpetrator must be punished or get equal punishment, or the punishment must fit the crime. And we are removing you from society. Well, we can argue that we can remove you by keeping you longer for life in jail. But remember, when you are a judge, you are not looking at the matter from one perspective. You're looking at society, you're looking at the victim, you're looking at the perpetrator, you're looking at all various, aspects, For me, death penalty also, you must also look at the victims. If your family member has been killed, like we've seen with Hani, Chris Hani was murdered by Janus Walus. In terms of our laws, Walus, he was entitled to parole, but it was painful to see the wife, crying, no, this guy cannot come out. So therefore, you take that into account, which, the victims must feel which justice was served. Must see justice, which, you killed our own. And therefore, that person is no longer, alive now to tell his story. So it is for that reason we are removing you from society. And besides, we give you a life imprisonment. You're still, chowing our tax monies and all that. And South Africa is very liberal because even people who are given life, after some time, they get paroled. I remember Jeff Radebe was still a Minister of Justice. He passed a certain directive that says all these people who are doing life sentences after 12 years must be, eligible for parole. So you can see the absurdities of it. Somebody who's doing 100 years probably will do, yeah.
What do you think about those cases in which the law doesn't really do a good job, and then an innocent person will now end up getting a death penalty? Where, let's say, the police and the judges, lawyers, they failed to do what they were supposed to, and then an innocent person
get the death penalty.
Yeah.
I can argue and answer you like a layman and say, hey, there's so many people who are innocent in jail. Sometimes innocent people, they don't get justice all the time. As they say, Uguti, sometimes being good doesn't mean that you're going to be rewarded here on earth. And one judge once said, he was arguing against the death penalty. He was saying that it is better to let one guilty person free, than to execute someone wrongly, But for me, I believe that death penalty should be brought in those cases where there is 200% certainty that this guy has done it. There are matters where, you cannot escape them. Like I listened to one matter a long time ago. This guy killed, I think, a 4-year-old stepdaughter. And then when asked in court, I don't know whether his confession is real or not, you can go, test that. But he said, I killed her because the mother cheated. So I was hurt. And therefore, I wanted to hurt the mother. So I killed the daughter. I loved the daughter, gave her sweets. She came into my room. Says took about 11 minutes, choking her, and then put her under the bed, and then came back, realized that this girl is still alive, wrapped her in a carpet and still, put pressure on her. So such a person, there's a person like Moses Sithole. What do you do to Moses Sithole? Moses Sithole, I think he is one of the highest sentenced prisoners. I think he died in jail. He was sentenced to 4,400. It was about 400. So he was a serial rapist and a serial killer. So if someone is killed by 60-something people, there's people who will tell you, you know what, you cannot change me. I'm a pedophile. The only way, to deal with me is to remove me from a society. But those cases, there are people who are not remorseful. They are proud. And therefore, what are you saying, to society? When that person, after 2 years, 5 years, I've seen some of them, Guma podcast, they were sentenced to life. But they are back now after 12 years, 13 years, and now they become celebrities. But the people that they've killed, they don't have a chance to become celebrities. When now you can come and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I used to do this, now I've got a master's degree in jail. But the people that you've killed don't have a master's degree. So you've, terminated their lives. But in those cases where you can be 100%, there are some people who are doing crazy crimes. There's a lady who was doing research. She was going to prison, interviewing juveniles, hardcore criminals. She was saying, she was saying some of the crimes don't make sense, because she asked a lot of people, why are you here? It's poverty. There are no jobs. And then ask someone, why did you rape? Poverty. It didn't make sense. Maybe you can say poverty in terms of, how you grew up, it didn't have a father, it didn't have, but I don't take that, because when you're growing up, you cannot come and saying, I'm abusing my wife because I saw my father abusing my mom. Because when your father is abusing your mom, you don't like it. So it's not possible with now you're doing what you don't like.
That's not true. There's people that see their parents' actions as normal. So when I've heard so many people say, umfazi uma delela uyashava, kushava ingane kushava nomfazi. There's people that truly believe that this is normal.
So when it happens as kids, when your mom is being beaten, you're 4 years old, 6 years old, she's crying. As a child, do you like that? Do you say, no, that is good. My dad, is doing a good job.
Over time, you learn to acclimatize to particular perspectives. I'll give you an example. I didn't like being hit as a child, but I will definitely hit my child because I understand why it's necessary. You see, it's been normalized in my life and in my perspective and worldview. Do you not believe that a more therapeutic, more rehabilitatory perspective is better than the death penalty? Trying to find out the root cause as opposed to just cutting it off.
I don't believe that. For me, now I'll tell you, I for one, if you killed my lover, my child, my, everything, or someone key to me, I don't think that I want to see you subjected to the judicial process. There's a president or former president of Philippines, Duterte. They asked him, they say, but you're a lawyer. He said exactly the same thing. He says, know what, I will take you out. And he has killed people, in the streets, drug users, arrested them, bangers and gang bangers. He killed them. He was an executioner. And he asked him, but you're a lawyer. I believe that, if I can't do it myself, I'll buy people to do it for me or on my behalf. Because you're not going to be jumping up and down. Look, we live in a society determined by liberals who are telling us, Uguti, you must forgive yourself or forgive. I don't believe in that. That's nonsense. Maybe it's taken from the biblical text that forgive those who sin against us. I believe in retribution. Some other people need to be punished for you to have peace in your heart. And people are told, Uguti, you know what? Forgiveness is good for you. For who? If someone has violated me, I want to see you suffer. I want to see you, kneeling before me. There are people who are older than me, because when I was still at school, only guys who were older than me could beat me up, because I was a fighter. I was fighting from day one. Day one, even a crash, I was fighting. So there are some people, maybe, they jumped me, 3 against 1. Even today, when they see me, they bow, because anything can happen. There's another guy almost stabbed me at high school. I was poop drunk. I was drunk. They couldn't touch me when I was sober. But when they see me today, I can see the fear in their eyes. I'm okay with that. I'd rather have a gun, and then people bowing to that, and people say, I want to be loved. You rather fear me than loving me. So I'm okay with that, as long as you're doing what I want. So this thing which you must count, breathe in and out, and then you'll be okay. No. In whose benefit? In whose benefit? Because the perpetrator, they're going free. There's a case in east of Joburg. These ladies, they were sitting, enjoying their afternoon. next to the lake, came these thugs, maybe about 10, and then they grabbed them, tied these guys' hands behind their back, and they threw them inside the water. They killed the guy. They raped the women, all the women. And I'm glad that the guy, who was a friend of mine, was sitting in that court. He was a judge. He gave them lengthy sentences. And I'm sure if that penalty was there, he would have given them death penalties. But I know they'll be back because they'll do courses, in jail, and in no time they'll go to podcasts and saying, I was arrested for this, I shot, and then we all, clap hands and say, good. For me, I want to, you'll be.
The purpose of prison is to reform, not to necessarily punish, but to correct, right? I want to know, Ike, would you not like forgiveness for all the wrongs you've done in your life?
I've done so many wrongs, but I'll tell you this. There are certain crimes that you can reform a person, and when you punish a criminal, there are theories of punishment, and I think every law student does that in Criminal Law 101. I don't remember them. The students, they are more clued up than guys who are practicing because the information is still fresh. And when you're practicing, you find that I've moved away from criminal law. I'm now doing commercial. I no longer remember. But I'll tell you this. A guy came before the court. The judge had to consider, what did you say? Rehabilitation. They have to consider rehabilitation. They have to consider that retributive justice. The penalty must fit the crime. They must consider deterrence. The sentence must also deter others watching. They must also deter you, the perpetrator. They consider all those theories, reformatory. They must consider the interest of justice. They must consider all those elements. And then they look into your age, are you a repeat offender? Can you do that? And the age, what led you to that? So a judge doesn't just sit and say, you want that penalty. They look into all that, how you grew up. People motivate. That's why they bring experts. And then they come to what we think or believe should be a fair determination or a fair judgment. After looking into all those theories of parliament, you don't look at theories of punishment. You don't look at one. You look at all, in total. Can you reform this person? There are people that you cannot reform. You cannot educate them. The serial killer. So what are you saying? You don't apply one theory and say, no, we are reforming you. We must also punish you. We must also deter you. We must also deter others. You must also look at the interest of justice. What are you saying? What message are you sending? You must also apply preventative measures or preventative theory. So there are all those theories. I'm sure they've added other theories, taking it from now, because the last time I did that, it was, I think, pre-1994. I'm an old school. So the constitution was changing at that time. So it is for that I believe that sentence, it was okay. But unfortunately, it will never come back because we've got the Mankwanyane system. And in CODESA, when negotiating, when you do human rights or fundamental rights, they tell you that there are these 24 principles that they have agreed upon, which these shall never be changed. They don't tell us what are those 24 principles, but I suspect they're somewhere in the Bill of Rights, captured there in the Bill of Rights. These, no matter what, they shall not change. So therefore, the courts, they're running this country, even though they are appointed by the executive, because nothing is absolute. Somewhere there's an overlap system. And I don't know if you want to ask anything else, then let me continue. This week I was in court in Johannesburg High Court. I don't like Johannesburg High Court. I prefer Pretoria. I'm driving to Pretoria from Joburg South to Pretoria all the time. Sometimes I would be driving 2 a.m. When I still had chambers in Pretoria, I would drive and get there and then work, prepare to go to court. I would do that 5 days a week. I've got reasons why, and I'll explain them. And some courts, I find that judges, they are competing with legal practitioners. Some of the judges, they are attorneys, they are advocates, or they are practicing as advocates. In South Africa, you can be a judge even if you come from academia. I think Shackleton, the first constitutional judge president, not Chacalson, man. I forgot. There's one, a judge, a couple of judges, who are, academics. They can appoint you to come be a judge. There's so many people who came, but they've got, the experience of law, and yeah. So in South Africa, you can become a judge, most they pick from attorneys, from, advocates. And some of the people who become judges are people who are failures in their own practices. They didn't have clients. They're not exposed to, various laws. And then when they come there before, so there's this jealousy when they see you coming to court every day. Because remember, I'm a hustler. If I don't go to court, I don't have money. I don't make money. So sometimes they see you 5 times, especially when it comes to RAF matters. RF matters, or maybe other state matters that pay. They see maybe an attorney is 24-year-old, he's still starting and his matter is settling for 7 million. He comes back tomorrow and the judge realizes, damn it, I'm not making this kind of money. Because remember, being a judge is a calling. That's why they say before you become a judge, make sure that you've made all your money, so that when you see other young practitioners, you don't get jealous. You don't say, this guy is coming twice. His first appearance, he's made, my entire salary for a year. I think judges, I'm not sure what they're earning now. People can Google. The last time I checked, they were still earning about 2 million constitutional court judges. Magistrate, they earn less. When I checked years later, I don't know now, I don't keep up. It was 50 grand a month. And magistrate, they're also overworked. There's lots of matters. And being a judge, you don't have time. That's why you can never bump into a judge, a Pick and Pay or Checkers. You'll never see a judge. They're always working. Whether it's recess, they're always working. On holiday, they're always working, because there's so many court cases, especially with a civil trial. Let's say a day, you've got 30 matters. Some of the matters, they stood down because you reserve judgment. You must go right to that judgment, because people, when they appeal, they need to see that judgment. So in high court, like, in Johannesburg, unlike in Pretoria, maybe it's because Pretoria is the state, what do you call it? The state, what do you call it? The state capital. What do you call it, man? Like I forgot the term, but I'll remember. Pretoria, they finalize matters quickly, but in Joburg, they stand them down. You can come. For one matter on Monday, they say come back on Wednesday. Stood down. It's good for advocates if you don't have money or you don't have other matters, but that delayed justice. And some of the matters are being removed. Like my matter was removed because the judge says, no, I cannot see your matter online. But the matter is there. The registrar has invited them. But in Pretoria, they would have said, you know what, re-enroll your matter now. And then we deal away with this matter, and we're done. Because now, if you want to appear in court, if you applied for a date today, how long it will take you before your matter is heard. Remember, you don't just apply for a date today. Before you start, you must issue summons. You must, all your pleading processes before it is closed. Maybe you've spent 2 years exchanging documents, and then the pleadings have closed. After they have closed, maybe process of 2 years, then you apply for a date. You've already wasted 2 years. If you applied for a date 2025, now people in 2025, they're getting a date 2030, 2031. Remember, in fact, you're also aging. How old will you be? 5 years later, then you get justice. If, it's a labor matter, you want reinstatement. By the time you come, judgment, it's a piece of paper which is academic. The only thing maybe they can do is compensation. Sometimes you don't want compensation. You want to be reinstated. It's tell you, listen, dog, there's someone else now, in your position. He's been there for 5 years. What must happen to this person? Matters like, these property matters where people have, hijacked buildings. How long it takes, get a date, 5 years later, it comes before the court and you are not guaranteed judgment, because the judge has to look into the scenarios, look at the circumstances of the perpetrators. He's saying, okay, Angali, this person has hijacked a building, or you've leased, a property, and this guy is paying rent, he can no longer afford. The judge has to look, into this person's circumstances. Maybe he was an honest person, he was working, he lost his employment, unfortunately, so he's got kids. The kids, they've climatized here in this area, they're going to school. They cannot just uproot them, so you've got to give them time. They'll ask you guys, say, Do you think, you can get a job somewhere? How long does it take? And especially if a guy sometimes is paying 20 rand, 5 rand, it takes 2 months, doesn't pay. You cannot just take this person out, And the bill on the other side, is running for the property owner, electricity, water. That's how many buildings in Johannesburg were hijacked. Some people, they use that, in bad faith. And then they said, you know what, in this building, we don't have 1, 2, 3, we don't have hot water. Then we are holding or withholding monies. We are not paying to the property owner or the landlord. The landlord, the bill is running. The city of Joburg comes and says 5 million rands, you need to pay for your water. Most of them, they ran away. And then there you've got tenant, the building is hijacked. So unfortunately, it is that is happening. But the judges, they also cause a backlog, by piling matters over and over, by postponing matters that could be resolved as speedily as possible. Like in IRF matters, they used to have a panel of defendant attorneys. We resolved some of the matters at the door of the court because the IRF, they understaffed. At the state, they don't have enough staff. They don't finalize matters. And sometimes you'll be plaintiff. You're calling them, hey, where are you? Who's your advocate? They say, they haven't checked the file. And I'm in court. I'm calling with the matter. We need to go see a judge. And they say, can you stand the matter down? And then they move around. How much do you want? And says, no, this matter, I want 5 million for loss. I want this 200 for general damages. Let's postpone the others. They say, okay, fine. We have 3. And then we bargain. They say, okay, fine, let's take 3 rather than to go face a judge. And then the matter is resolved. Unlike, when going to a judge and the judge, is going to postpone the matter. We draft a draft order. We go to the judge in the roll call. The parties have agreed. It's made an order of court by agreement. And then it's done.
Is this the reason why so many buildings are hijacked? Is it because the perpetrators know that the law takes too long for the beneficiary to reclaim the building or the profits?
Yeah, we've got the PI Act. There's something called the PI Act, Prevention of Illegal Eviction. That act, when it was placed, it was done in good faith. There's another one called ESTA. I think it's called Extension of Security Tenure Act. Those acts, when they were crafted, it was because of a situation like Sophia Town, Mkumbane, Meningberg, where people were forcefully removed by apartheid government, without rights, and say, yes, from today, you are being removed from here. So they've crafted those acts, which, never again shall people be removed illegally so. But this act...
Like land expropriation, maybe?
This act has been used. I'm still answering your question. This act has been unfairly abused. Like lots of Nigerians, when they come to South Africa, they realize that, they've got the PI Act, because before I can remove you, I need to apply that PI Act. The court will consider a PI Act. And the PI Act has, those conditions. After you've occupied maybe the property for 6 months, I can't just remove you like that. I need to consider do you have an alternative accommodation? Do you have kids? The children's rights, they come first. School, I must consider that. And while you are in the property, staying there maybe for extra 2 years, you're running the bill. Who's paying the bill? The property owner. So those, laws and acts have been, used or have been abused unfairly. When it comes to, I don't know, there's another question that you posed, which is different from there.
I said, isn't the Land Expropriation Act an exploitation of the PI Act?
Isn't the PI expropriation? It's something else. I think Section 25 does state how you can expropriate land. I think they mentioned land that was taken since 1913 and stuff like that. They are conditions on how you can expropriate with compensation, of course. The last time I checked Section 25, they'll tell you that when you limit somebody's rights, or you expropriate, you must take into account that the law must be less restrictive, reasonable. They've got all those lists. I think there are 5. The same way as when you are limiting a right that is in the Bill of Rights or a constitutional right, you need to do that via Section 36. Section 36 says you can limit a right. Like, for an example, if I want to say women here in this field, they are advantaged, therefore I want to reduce their rights. But I must go through Section 36, which must say, what must happen. It must be less restrictive, it must be fair, you must be, all those things, and yeah. And when it comes to equality, something that I failed or omitted. Sometimes, you can, discriminate. Discrimination is not always unfair. Sometimes there is a fair discrimination, trying to balance, the status quo. You can discriminate fairly, and yeah, that is that. But when it comes to expropriation, like now, that's why they came up with laws, they want to expropriate without compensation. So it's for the politicians, to discuss that. But that, it will come with, a backlash, because in South Africa, our economy is so integrated, it's linked globally. The West will have something to say, and you'll experience something that you've never seen before. Western Zimbabwe, the sanctions. And I can tell you, South Africans, they are not ready for that. And South Africans, even if you can lead them, you try to be a Traore, they will turn against you if the West, they start coming up. Recently, I've been doing an interview. I mentioned something light. I said South Africans, they're more interested, with soccer, alcohol. People came for me, but you know me, I don't care. South Africans don't care. The city of Joburg, all people or almost everyone, who got contract are relatives, and they don't care about nepotism, but they care what Sundowns lost the league. Parents, then you ask yourself, an adult, I said an adult, male, he's even called Baga. Imagine me, you calling me Sandawana, Kosi for life. You can't even call Kezam Taung's children Kosi for life. Hey, I'm Bobby, I'm Jessica, don't call me that. Even Khoza, I'll tell you, I'm Dr. Khoza to you. But people are so invested in things that are so far away, things that don't change their lives. Maybe people want to escape because people, they know more about, soapies like Generation. I've seen people praying for characters, but you say this is a story because they confuse real life, and real images, because people are so invested in celebrities. This one is dating this one. I mean, I don't care. That's why I'm not clued up. Who won, rap song of the year? Maybe with age, you no longer care. I care about food. When I wake up here, where do I go? To have money. There are certain things I just watch. Not be that ignorant. But I don't know who scored 79 minutes. There are people who know that 59 minutes. They'll tell you, this current soccer player, he's dating so and so. He lives at this place. He does 1, 2, 3. Guys, do you remember all that nonsense in your head? So people are like that. So if you try to fight for them, they will turn against you. And people don't care. Like I normally say, most South Africans, especially blacks, they claim now which we fought for freedom. I can tell you, without fear of being contradicted, wherever I am, there's less than 1%. I'm one of that 1% who was there because we used to force them, stay away. No one is going to work. School, I used to close, or shut other schools down because we're not writing. Even 86, we repeated. We went to close neighboring schools. An injury to one is an injury to all. People, they were defying us, but I remember at some point we did a consumer boycott. We were staying okay. We are going to the station. We are supporting local business. If you buy grocery in town, we'll make you drink fish oil, peanut butter. And the saddest part is that I also saw my mom coming. I walked the other way, and I heard when you got home, my mom at the station, I saw people groceries, being splashed all over. Hey, me that you didn't see me. It probably because they know that you're my mom. But now how could I explain that? Because they knew that you're my mom. Because they left you,
Well, doesn't that also play into nepotism, right? You say the average South African is more concerned about soccer and alcohol. Do you not believe that, number one, that's implanted for them not to be powerful by the politicians. And secondly, on the issue of nepotism, if you were broke and then all of a sudden you were a president which had all these resources and all this money, you're the only person in your family with a double story, and now it's time to bless the nation. Who do you believe you would start with? The average man on the street or the rest of your family with 4-room houses?
That is nonsense, because my blueprint it's far wider and deeper than that, because when I was born, I've seen good leadership. When I was born, Stephen Biko was still alive. I repeat that every day so that it sinks in. Robert Sobukwe was still alive. The best of the best in this country that has ever produced. A man who's been deleted out of history. Nobody knows Robert Sobukwe. Nobody has ever heard his voice. The people who heard him speak are people who lived in the 60s, his colleagues. The most recorded person in South African history, the most photographed person. You can find Jack Johnson, who fought Ngaboma 1908, the first black heavyweight champion. You can find the footage of Malcolm X. This guy was interviewed by BBC and all that, but they made it a point because they delete him out of history. Tsietsi Mashinini was still alive. June 16 is coming. He's deleted out of history. Those are good leaders. Robert Sobukwe was a professor in the 50s at Wits. He traveled using a train. He was a Methodist pastor. He was preaching inside the train. When his colleagues, Sabo Mandela, they were driving cars, about Thunderbird, American cars, he was traveling using a train with the people. He was leading, from the front. Even when they started the pass campaign, he went to the police station. He said, arrest me first. I'm not carrying a pass. That's what I'm saying when I criticize the EFF. When I'm saying Julius Malema says, take land. When you see an open space, take land and, occupy it. But he's not doing that. He follows all the banking protocols, the bond, and even living at Mazoti's house. When he's buying a car, he says you must nationalize banks. But he's not doing that. If you're nationalizing bank, why was Floyd, when he was still an EFF member, having 5 cars running away from people who wanted to repossess the car? Because you could have told him, good, listen, we are repossessing you. I'm not paying, He was chasing, I don't know, these guys, they're pseudo-revolutionaries. He was crying, Malema, saying they denied me visa to London. Why do you care? Imagine Traore saying, in France, they don't want me to come there. I get we are fighting these guys, you don't want them. But he wants to be next to them. Even his neighborhood, even his children, they go to white school, and you trying to irritate the captains of industry so that they open doors for you. You are using black anger, like people who are using BEE. It was not for me and you. When they're using BEE, they're simply saying, open up, give us 30% ownership. Elon Musk, open up, whatever, Billy Gator, and who's this other one? There's this other one, the Rothschild. They say, hey, open up your door so that you can come in. If these guys, they're refusing, they sing, kill the poor, kill the family. They say, what do they want now? Please come, guys. Come down, guys. Get inside. And white people no longer get scared because they've got the likes of Bob Hersoff, pushing this narrative with, enough is enough. So they're using black anger to scare white people so that white people open doors. Because in BEE, if you're not Motsepe, you're not Tokyo, you're not politically linked, you're not going to get there. So, yeah.
Do you think it's possible that maybe a leader will have good intentions when he starts, but there's just so much overwhelming corruption from within the actual system that he ends up just conforming and also giving into the corruption?
There's so many leaders starting with, good ethics. Like if you check the history of dictators, most dictators, they start well, being loved. Along the way, probably they realize, good, nah, man, these guys are nincompoops. Like we did, in the 80s. We had to promise Dakis Nicholas. Winnie Mandela had to come, joined us. We're saying, what, we've got a tire and a matches. That's how, we're able to push, because there were so many people who were spies. All of a sudden, the police are here, they're arresting us. But you have to say, what, we'll ban you. And most of these revolutionaries, benevolent dictators, they start well, but they realize that, people get tired because remember, an average person, he's not prepared to sacrifice his life. You can check, even China, people who were forced you know what, there's a great limp. Even in Russia, they lost 50 million people. China lost almost the same number. Even when Mao died, the new leadership came in China. We are told that you are now industrializing. You force people, even one-child police, which was sad, but they had to implement it because the population was growing. They say, no, one-child police. People, sometimes you have to force them in a way, because if you leave them, on their own, they will never implement anything. They will start questioning, stuff. You check about Dubai. It would not be Dubai if we had so much democracy and someone says, why are we, building this building here? Why not there? Why not? You never do anything. At some point, these guys, they realize with no man, let me push, further. And some, they just cross the line. Thomas Sankara, when he was killed, Thomas Sankara started well. He did a lot in 4 years. But at the time when Thomas Sankara was killed, the people were hurtful because now they were tired, they were fatigued, because Thomas Sankara was saying, you know what, we're going to use the Burkina Faso cotton for every clothes that you are wearing. Government officials are not driving Mercedes-Benz, they're driving Amma Minis. We're not going to earn higher than, the rest of the population. Women must be, empowered and all that. So some people were getting tired. That's why the ground was fertile for him to be killed. Most of the people, you go to DRC when they removed Lumumba, you go to Ghana when they removed Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere. People are tired, because people, want, unlimited liberty. You check the Soviet Union when it collapsed. The Soviet Union was collapsing in propaganda. Americans, they have to bombard them with images of jeans, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Rambo movies, Escape to Victory. There's a movie, Escape to Victory, Nabo Sylvester Stallone. And these movies, they make their way that side. They had a music video, if you remember, Nikita, by Elton John. That's not just a song. People think that this is just entertainment. Hollywood is not just entertainment. It's politics. When, I don't know, maybe it's East Germany, which was, not liberated because you could not travel, if you're from East Germany, the Soviet countries. And then there's Elton John this side. He's singing Nikita, you'll never know, anything about my land or my country. It's so nice this side when they are sitting. So they created that appetite. That's why, by 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Then the Romania, they fell. They had to execute the Romanian dictator. I don't know if you know the story of the Romanian dictator was executed with his wife. So people, they get tired. They become fatigued. You have to force them in a way. In Cuba, they did the same. But now it's a question of how much do you force them? How much liberty do you give them? You have to keep on regulating and checking with how far. Yes, you wanted to say?
Yeah, so do you think governments should then adopt a more totalitarian approach and implement censorship and these kind of things based on the examples that you've given? And what dangers also could that lead to?
I think the government has to balance it, because you cannot, apply one or, the other exclusively. You've got to manage the two, like for an example, when Germany came, in the 30s, there was lots of pornography. There was lots of, promiscuity in the media and all that. That's why their leader came in, and said, you know what, you're doing away with lots of, immoralities, and he was popular at the time. Even us, the government must come in, there are certain things that, you cannot let, let's say, for an example, children watch certain pornographic images, be it on the internet. The government must come in and punish those who are pushing those images. Like in, apartheid government, you'll not be, found with a picture of a naked woman or sex, and you'll be arrested, and they enforce that. They were thorough in enforcing that. There are certain things that, a government will be a dictator in a way, like tax. If you ask people, do you want to pay tax? Everyone will say no. So therefore, there you don't have much right. There's a bit of dictatorship. So that's why I'm saying that nothing is absolute. Like, for an example, it surprises me when people saying, I'm a socialist, I'm a capitalist, I'm this. You cannot be 100% anything. RDP House, that's an element of socialism. The grants, that's an element of social. You need a balance. You cannot apply one, because if you say capitalism, even in the United States, there's a social grant, there's where they open up. That's an element of socialism. That's an, element of capitalism, making profit and, succeeding, making sure that, as Thabo Mbeki was running the country, as an accountant, minimum input, maximum output. But you cannot apply that as Thabo Mbeki tried, because when you're cutting certain services, you're cutting people. Like it happened in RAF, Road Accident Fund. When Collins Litswalo came in, he had a mandate from the politicians because they wanted to loot the RAF money, because it's one of the SOEs that they could not touch. And this is where I have a problem with Collins Litswalo, because I believe that someone can tell a lie using the truth. There are corrupt attorneys who are robbing their clients. Some of them, they are looting, they are colluding with RAF employees. Sometimes I'll be defending RAF as an advocate in court. I'm there. There's somebody who's a plaintiff claiming. And then I'm saying, you know what? This is the offer. Okay, you want 2 million. I've got 1.5. And this guy will say, no, I'm not taking it. I say, okay, let's argue it before the judge. He says, no, let's remove the matter. Because he knows he's colluding with someone from the inside. Somebody promised him 3. And this guy gets 3. Maybe gives this person 50,000. That's what happened. So they were supposed to combat the corruption from within, because there's lots of corruption. So this government wanted to chow, some monies, like you've heard Colin Litswalo saying this week, and say SARS against the court judgment, they took 5 billion. And they just tax it. So politicians want that money to go to treasury. So they were supposed to fight, the corruption, because if you cut, remember, as a country, profit is not only in the money form. Profit is also in the, happiness index of your people. Your people, if they live longer, that is profit. Your people, they don't die, what's the birth rate, quality of education, quality of life. How do you do that if people are unemployed? Like, for an example, RAF, it has employed a lot of people, and the in-law, it's one field, out of many, where you can do exactly what you studied for at school, and it has empowered lots of people who are now having houses, driving cars. They're employing other people, because if you start there, maybe you've got 4 files, you're employing other people, you employ a clerk, and you employed an actuary, you employed, because those matters, when you litigate, you've got to bring everyone, a physiologist, you employ them. So if you're cutting, and to what extent, you just have to balance it. So they did away with the defendant, and then it became worse, because when you go to court now, you found Uguti, the RAF, they were not defendant, and they were understaffed. It was default judgments, and therefore most people, got, more than they would have got had the RAF being defendant. So what he was trying to do, it became worse, So that is that. So unfortunately, it is like that. So Litswalo, he came in with a political mandate, and some of the things that he's saying, they're true. Like sometimes, as I say, when I say what you can tell a lie using truthful statements. Like the devil went to Jesus, and say, if you are the Son of God, why don't you throw yourself, from the mountain, and the angels will come and carry you? Why don't you turn bread? Whatever, he was hung. The devil was telling the truth, because if you are the Son of God, the angels will come, and he knew that, because the first truth, it was saying you are the Son of God, but he was trying to mislead him, tempting him. So those are that. So yeah, but I still believe that there are good judges. There's so many good judges who wants to see justice being done, but some of the judges, they are harsh, and they are, they are rude, they are grumpy. Maybe it's because of workload, they are grumpy. And some of the students who are coming for the first time, they never come back again, because they found a judge, that the judge, he's intolerant, and it's scary. Even now, I still get butterflies. If I'm in court, I still get butterflies. I'm one of the bravest guys, but sometimes the court, and sometimes when in me, you find all these people, when you stand up and say, hey, as it pleases the court, and everyone is looking at you, there's because you don't know. Sometimes in court, you might think that thing will go smooth, and they ask you something that you never thought of. And something, sometimes you have to ask your colleagues. This is where I advise younger guys, ask your colleagues, grab anyone here, he must help you, he's your colleague, he's an honorable member of this court. Say, hey Joe, I'm in trouble, assist me here. Ask, you'll never know everything. I mean, I've told judges, okay, it's fine. We disagree on this element. What is the court saying? Can the court give me guidance? The court give me guidance, and they say, okay. Sometimes we disagree. Okay, I stand the matter down. Yeah. So not even the judges, they know everything. And the most thing that I also wanted to say here, as a legal practitioner, you don't know everything. Some they are good drafter, some they are good when it comes to litigation, and you might start as a criminal lawyer. And you find that your clients, they come mainly from medical negligence. You'll end up being good in medical negligence. The same as when you're doing in medics. They're general practitioners. They're guys who are eye specialists. They will tell you, listen, I'm not a gynae. Go to the gynae. So most of us, we start with criminal law. It's a good, ground to exercise. Now I'm doing civil litigation because criminal law, it's also corrupt in a way because if you don't have money there, you must pay the police, you must pay the prosecutor, you must pay everyone. Otherwise, you'll follow the book and your client will be frustrated, still, not charged at the police station. And yeah, so it's one of those, difficult things, but anyway, as I proceed, I think I've exhausted the matter of the judiciary and all that. I'll come back to my other area. You'll edit because I'll lose my chain of thought. This is where most people, they ask me and about my life. I normally don't like to talk about my life because sometimes it involves relationships and all that. And I found that, this week I did 2 weeks back an interview. All women that I've dated, they're coming for me. Ike, why do you speak about me on the interview? I found one lady, you mentioned a Jewish lady who did this. I said, no, I was not talking about you. They're attacking me. They say, why are you talking about me? Yes, I said, no, but you're not the only Jewish woman that I dated. And they say, no, I'm going to go to that podcaster. I want that thing removed. But I said, I didn't mention your name. I'm just being frank because I wanted to pass a certain lesson. So, but yeah, I'm that person. As I said, I'm a very private person, but I live publicly. I know that's a contradiction. It's like saying that you are a prostitute, but still a virgin. So I'm loud, but yet shy. And some, I've made mistakes and I've learned from that. But and you remember, as a person, there are certain things that will influence you, growing up. Let me take off my head when I talk about this. My hair is still in transition. So sometimes, I don't want to show it up because the enemies and what they have something to say. There's so many people, like so many people on social media, they got lots to say. And there are people that normally when they meet you in the street, they wouldn't say much, when they meet you in the street, because I know that most people, when they go through school, school needs soften you. People come into your house to rob you. Says, gentlemen, I'm a doctor. What do you want? Sometimes you must go mad, And that's why women, they love bad boys because these good guys, there isn't too much. Sometimes you gotta go mad, Don't be this feminized. Women, they like, guy, that roughness, but in theory, they'll say, you must be soft, give me flowers and all that. It has been confusing. And for me, I believe that I've wronged a lot of people in my past. And in my mission, trying to atone, I've allowed lots of things to escape, even disrespect. Sometimes I'll be disrespected in relationships and friendships because I'm saying, okay, you know what, I'm paying rent here on earth. I'm atoning, but I've allowed certain things in my later years. But you need to be rough in a way, as a person. You need to retain that. Don't lose your, your danger status. You must always be dangerous all the time, therefore you'll be respected. But I'm that guy, still that guy who's shy, but conscious and aware of my looks. Like now I've been sleeping about 2 hours, 3 hours, and I feel that, when I'm facing on my cameras, yeah, they no longer do justice like before because they start to show my apex and things that I didn't have because I came from modeling background. I was the most handsome guy in this country. I still believe that I'm the most handsome jurist that this country has ever produced, even though, time machine is the time machines. Yeah, is how I had cheekbones. Now I've got fat faces and I'm not used to that. So I'm conscious when I look at myself. That's why I'm even conscious about how I see it. This thing mustn't show like, I've got a big tummy. I have had a big tummy, and it's a very difficult thing to have because even women that, I know, from my past, they'll come and say, "Oh, and they touch your tummy." That's not a nice thing. And women, I don't know why they do that. They'll touch your tummy. Oh, such a big tummy. They say, "No, I know that I've got a big tummy." Now I try to reduce. Because I've never had a big tummy. I've done competitions. Go Roy Ross, Model of the Year. I've done Men Hunt, Men's Health, Mr. SA. I think I did Mr. SA twice. But the last one, they robbed me. And most of the guys, they robbed me, I can tell you. Because I'm not used to this thing. You see, like now, because there's a team. I'm not used to, people say I'm arrogant. I'm not. I'm not used to campaigning. Most of my competitors, they will campaign and say, when Ike comes on stage, you must boo him. And then they bring school kids and shout, hey. I'm not there. That's why even I will subscribe, follow, comment, share. It's not really, so I'm in a crossroad. But that is that. So I'm always like that. The last competition, Mr. SA, I was supposed to win it because unfortunately, when I got to the judges interview, because there's pre-interviews before the show, I find that I knew all the judges. One guy, I used to compete with him. I said, oh God, it might be bad for me. But they didn't interview me. They say, Ike, we know you, my man. You've been around, you've done, we're just going to give it to you. Before they announce the decision, they stood down for about 30 minutes. I asked, they said, no, we were fighting because they brought in the top 5. These things are cooked. But Miss SA, they are cooked. We used to know who's going to be the Miss SA. During era Boba Setsane, Peggy, they were always like handpicked. Some competitions that I've won, they've called me from home. But Ike, why are you not in the finals? Why are you not competing? Says, I didn't know. They says, no, come and join. The organizers, they will call you. Because they want you. There's competition that I won sometime, like it was 1998, it was a Model of the Year. But they look and say, they call me from home. They say, no, man, we want a guy like you to represent us. Then I came in there, I had a 6-pack and I jumped the stage and I come in and after I won, they say, take off your shirt. I miss those days. I took off my shirt. Yeah. The lines, yeah. I even got, I got a chick from Eldos, Miss Eldorado Park. At that time, I got a colored chick. She was with another colored friend of mine, was a model. She just jumped on stage. She says, I love you. I love at first sight. I say, I love you too. I didn't ask a lot of questions. Yeah, I'm still rolling. Yeah, so, but that is that. So, yeah, I've been this guy. I've been an outcast, and it surprises me when people saying, I've been paid by Bob Herzog.
Sorry, man. Just a quick one. You jumped on stage. I remember back in the day, you used to bleach your vests so that you can tear them with ease later on. I just want to know, right? What benefit do you think being promiscuous or having a lot of ladies gives to a man? Because a lot of the time, man, I've realized that you lose as a man money. You lose the attention that you could be using to further your career. You lose that focusing on women, your health. We're not even going to get into the spirituality part of it. So do you really think it's to a younger Ike who is living in 2025, would you advise him to live the life that you've lived relationship wise?
I will tell you this. First of all, I never bleached my shirts to tear them. I had a 6-pack that could be seen when I'm wearing a jersey. So I had a good build, So if I were to say it myself. So I was that guy and I stood out wherever I am. There's one thing about models. Nowadays, I hear someone will be saying, I used to do modeling. Models, they're different. When they walk the room, you will see, well, this guy is different. Even you'll see, even if you check in the catwalk, they're not necessarily beautiful people, but they're exotic. They've got, strange features. You know, it's not like most people confuse modeling with beauty. It's not necessarily beautiful people. It's like, you know, there's a certain look, you know, that's, yeah. So when it comes to being promiscuous, and I get we come from that era, so as a child, you told me, when I was still young, and women used to say, older women, I mean, come on, I'm 4 years old and all that, going to a crèche. Women, they come to visit my house. They say, magakulala. There'll be a lot of ladies behind, you know, him. And obvious, you climatize to that, you know. And then as you go, you know, Boma, you know, where are these ladies? And then, guys, you know, they will, you know, program you, but you know what? You are the man. You know, because if you don't have a woman growing up, so we grew up in that. So, of course, it will take lots of your money, but you gain a lot of experience because no one can give you that experience. I mean, I've lost a lot. Yeah, I've lost a lot with that because you lose money because you need to date women, take them to places. I've paid, for tuition fees, but I'm different in a sense. But I did not pay, you know, hoping that this woman is gonna stick Nami. So I was not looking for that. I'm having fun, and then I find that this person is in my life, and women, they've got a way, you know. Sometimes they tell you, using different methods. My results. You end up popping out mine and say, you know what, how much do they want to take? You know, because we've had too much of that. Because guys are fixers. You know, we don't want to hear about the same problem, you know, all the time. I've been to places, you know, with someone. Even the woman will ask you, which, you know what, it's so expensive here. Are you okay? Yeah, and there are those women that, you know, you'll, you know, date. You know, there's a woman that you're going to date. Whether it's your side chick, you've got 50 girls. But this one, when she leaves, you're so hurt. And that, you know, even if you're married, you feel like telling your wife, which, you know what, man, there's this side chick. There are women like that. I'm telling you, you feel like telling your wife, which hasn't. I'm not okay. And nobody can tell. Women can tell. Look, you know what? Yeah, you're frustrated by those people who frustrated you. You're coming out and taking it out on me because they can tell. Look, you know what? Somewhere you've been disappointed, or somewhere you find that this side is cheating. Yeah, so I'm like that person. So, but I wanted to explain, you know, because most people, they said I'm paid, you know, by some people. I'm not, you know, I lose a lot of money, and I've been doing free legal work, even during COVID. I was arrested during COVID. They called me an instigator. I even cried in court because I didn't know why I was arrested. And these guys, they came in, it was the coldest day in July. They took me, they said, no, he's going to ask you questions. And I left with them. And then when I appeared in court, I was shocked, you know. When I appeared in court, I saw cameras. I mean, I heard, you know, from, you know, in the cells, the police saying, no, it's okay, you can cover your face. I said, cover my face for what now? You know, and they don't tell me, why am I arrested? I don't know until I appeared. When I appeared, I saw cameras, you know, all over a court. You know, I was shocked. And then I sat down and I listened to the prosecutor saying, you know, the instigator, July 2020. I was shocked. Actually, I was sad. I even cried and said, oh my God, they're associating me with Jacob Zuma, the man that I've criticized so much, the man that I've labeled, you know, a fake. And here I am, you know, imagine, I mean, you know, and yeah, that is that. I've lost a lot of money because I had clients lined up, and after that was on bail. I lost most of my clients. I did free legal work. There are people whose houses have been hijacked. You can imagine, I'm going to court. The bank, they come, they repossess my car, but at the same time, I must go to court. So I've done free legal work for free. I've helped people for free. Even in the arts, when I was a unionist, I didn't earn a salary. I've helped artists, musicians, you know, for free of charge. You know, and I was using my own money from royalties, you know, work that I have done. So when people saying that, you know what, I'm paid, I'm that person. I'm still afraid to charge. Even when people come to me and, you know, but you know, for your work, unfortunately or fortunately, I have to go through an attorney because I'm briefed by attorneys. I refuse to be one of those advocates who take matters directly from members of the public. Because how much are you going to pay me? Because if I come and I say, you know what, for appearing in High Court, give me 30 grand. For my preparations, 5 hours preparation, give me 15. For this, easily, you can pay me 200,000 just for me to go. He gave me a matter last week, Monday. It's appearing on Friday, or it's appearing on Wednesday. I go, so you can't, so that's why I prefer to work with big clients where the attorney says, you know what, I'm representing so-and-so, or claiming against so-and-so. You'll get your money when you lose, when you win and all that. I prefer those cases, even though they take time to pay, some of them. Like RAF, medical negligence in other matters, of which one thing I ended is to collapse some of the practices that are remaining where plaintiff, because when they change, paying after 180 days, of which they don't even pay after 180 days. There are people who are still owing me since 2018, 2019. Some of them I have to take to court. Some they were friends, because they take advantage of these 3 years. Some they've chowed money. So it's one of those things, so which is like, puzzling when they say, this guy is being paid by Bob Persoff. I wish Bob Persoff could give me money. I will show you how to chow somebody's money without even complying. Maybe they will kill me because I told these guys, my NGO that I used to assist, go to guys, I can see that you love money. Take the money here, but don't do what they want you to do. But guys are not like that. So I'm like that. I'm looking at the time. What are you saying? You want me to start? No, I'm still okay. But you want me to? I thought that. Yes, I thought that you will cut it on the land. I don't know. The third. So that is it, because I wanted to do one take and then you'll cut it. So that's that. So but other than that, that's a story of my life in short. And other than that, life with Ike Khumalo. And peace and out, as they say. I find it difficult to keep on saying subscribe, follow, share, whatever, because I'm one person that I've done things for free without asking people to pay. I get even ashamed when I say people must pay me. And my woman in my past, they'll say, I was glad, you're doing things for free. Other people are getting millions, but you're the only one who's there. I said, I grew up in that culture when you used to help for free. When you see an elderly person carrying a luggage, you carry it. When you see a person stuck on the side of the road, you just helped. But sometimes people abuse you. And I realized, you know what? Everybody else is making money. What I was volunteer as they will ask you, no, you must come and volunteer, and it has become that. So, but with Dakis, I'm one of those people that are discouraged to help black people, because I've helped black people. The very same black people who've broken into my place many a times, broke the roof, violated me in a way that I never thought. And I asked myself, when this person tried to steal my car, did they know I suffered so much for black people? Do they know that I fought in Gata? Do they know that I've lost friends who've been killed? Do they know I had almost near-death experiences? Because for everything difficult that I faced, it was not for me. I was always the chosen one. Even in the entertainment industry, all these Jewish guys will say, Ike, stop talking, too much. Stop representing these guys. But for me, I says, no, you know what? I did not come alone. You cannot pick me alone. Co-opted. Maybe I should have gone inside. Sometimes you need to go inside and then open the doors while you're inside. But for me, I was always said, but no, man, I'll be a sellout. I can't. My demeanor and my posture didn't allow me. But other than that, peace and out.